What is going on, everybody? I am out in the garage and doing a lot of metal grinding and cutting today because I'm in the process of modifying my rear knuckles on my Volvo 960 to support dual brake calipers so I can have a hydraulic e-brake for drifting. And I have the whole thing, a whole setup right here. But first, let's go here so I can explain some things, because everybody knows, I mean, you should know by now if you watch the channel, that I have Nessie here, my 98 V90. But I also have the exact same car over here, a 98 V90 that I use for a parts car. And I have the whole rear end and knuckles, as I said, we were modifying, out and in the garage on the vise here. And we can check this out. I have a super custom table setup going on right now. None of that is secured, but hey, and then I have two ratchet straps holding this piece of plywood to the table. Super legit, but it works because I already modified this whole thing. I already ground the heck out of this thing. And your stock brake caliper mounts up right here. And what I did here, I used some SRS concept mounts there, and I'll explain how I modified them in a minute with a modified bracket. And then I ground this down a whole bunch, and this will be my second brake caliper mounting point. Obviously I'll have to weld this on. I'll explain in a minute because I have a stock knuckle right here and I'll show you the differences. But that's just a rough idea. And I have the control arm on so I know spacing wise, and I'll show you kind of a little bit what you need to do to make this happen, because I know for sure, guys, that this is going to be the only video on YouTube, on the internet, of how to modify a Volvo 960 knuckle, at least for the US. In the US, it's just like something that people just don't do. People don't do things with these cars. So this will be definitely a one and only and the first for this car, I think. So I'm going to explain how I'm doing it a little bit, so maybe someone out there in the world who wants a hydro in their car can make it happen also and do some skids, because these cars are amazing. They're so good, but there's just no aftermarket mods. It's terrible. It's terrible. But I'll dive into this a little bit more. Let's check it out. Our starting point here is with some BMW SRS concept dual caliper brackets, and they come together as one piece, but the Volvo caliper has a wider wingspan, so I cut them right in half. And then you have to cut a whole bunch down. I can put that right there for 1 sec to make these work. And you can't go any lower with these because, as you can see, it's pretty much flush back there, so I'm going to have to grind it down right here after I weld it as it is to make this bracket sit nicely. So I have those ground down as low as I can go, and I'm sure you probably can already see that my brake caliper bracket is even modified from stock. I had to grind down a whole bunch right there. Go to the side so it's not shadowy. God, it's so hard to, but you can see. And the reason for that is because I need to get this whole unit down there low enough for our brake pads to have a proper bite and to grab the rotor tight enough to slow us down and lock that rear wheel up. A whole lot of custom modification going on right now, but I'm pretty happy with the end result. This one is done besides welding, and it looks pretty good, and it looks like it's gonna work pretty good. So that's what I'm gonna be doing today, modifying the completely stock knuckle here today, and I can also show you, the differences in what you have to do. Because when you start off, you have your stock knuckle, you'll have to completely disassemble it, take your stock e-brake shoes out from there, and this method is going to allow us to retain our stock e-brake along with our dual calipers, which is amazing. We're going to have to chop this dust shield down to right about here, but not completely off, because you're going to want to keep, like I said, that stock e-brake. We're going to have to completely chop off this bump stop here. It unbolts, and then you have right here to cut off, and that ends up looking like that right there, just a big old chunk. And then if you look at this head on, you can see all this material right here. We're gonna have to trim down. You can't go too far, too deep, because this is the stock e-brake cable here, and it's hollow in there because this goes through. So you don't want to penetrate into that chamber there. And as you can see over here, we are really low down here. We took off a whole bunch, but we didn't enter there, and we have an amazing, nice, clean spot to weld onto. So that is perfect, guys. So we're gonna have to get this thing up in the vise and start taking it all apart and digging into it. Before we get going, here's a look at the tools I'm gonna be using. I got all Milwaukee stuff set up right here with just a grinding disc right here and then some cutoff wheels, and these will chop right on through there and get a nice clean slice to get a lot of that material off there. And you know, I got the smaller cutoff wheel, I got the Sawzall for the bump stop, so these things are gonna eat it right up, and let's get going. Let's chop this knuckle up. God, the sledgehammer right there. Nice. All right, we got another bump stop off. Now we got two big pieces of metal. I cut it almost like identical. I don't know if you can see, but pretty much the exact same way. All right, guys, we are 100% done cutting, grinding, modifying both these knuckles now, and we're ready to weld. And we're going to take it to Cody's shop because my welder is a little bit weaker, does not have as much power as his does. But before we do that, I want to show you what we have here, because we ended up making this honestly super cool. We ended up putting some coins in between the rotor there to hold it perfectly in the middle, and we did that on both. And here's the brake pad. And as you can see, for contact, it could not be riding any more perfectly on our brake rotor there. And it's being held so I can weld it up. I got some new bolts that are a little bit lower profile, so I have some more room to weld here. And you take your pad over here as well. Check this one out. Same situation. Just perfect. So we are ready to weld these things up, guys. And I'm gonna go do it, and I'll show you the end result. Here are the finalized knuckles, everyone. The only thing that I'll be doing further with these is wire wheeling all the rust off and painting them red, along with the lower control arms here so that everything matches. But I have two brackets on this knuckle to really show you the dual caliper action at work here. And it came out so awesome. It doesn't interfere with anything that has to be there. We have more than enough room for our lower control arm, more than enough room for upper mount for the knuckle here, and it really looks so great. I have it off on this one, the bracket's off, so you can kind of see from a different perspective here. But I'm really also happy for the fact that I definitely didn't lose any structure. This thing is definitely going to be just as strong, if not stronger, after all this has been done. And yeah, painted up, these knuckles are gonna look really good. Make sure to leave a comment on what you think about these. But personally, I couldn't be any happier with how they came out, and for the fact that my V8 Volvo, my drift wagon, is going to have a true dual brake caliper hydraulic e-brake for the first time. I've never been able to drift that car with any form of hydraulic e-brake, so I'm extremely excited to install these and test them out. I really think it's going to be a complete game changer and make it drift 1,000 times better, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited to do that. But that is all for today. Make sure to leave a freaking comment, like I said, and smash that like button, and we'll see you all in the next one. Peace!